settle on a title. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Did you have a thought on title?
I mean, the Chipman Brothers podcast still works for me.
You think that's okay?
But we had the Chipman Brothers Tangent, Super Chipman Brothers. I mean, any of those things work.
Do you think the tangent thing is funny? For some reason, that sounds like a thing, but I don't know.
I mean, I liked that. You know what I mean? Because it's like, you know, it anticipates that we're going to not necessarily stay on topic, and
Right,
that's what
okay.
I liked about it.
All right, so the Chipman Brothers Tangent.
I like that.
Do you want to go with that?
Let's go with that.
Let's go with that. The Chipman Brothers Tangent. We can always change it, but
Yeah.
let's. If I'm going to be putting this up on Libsyn, we'll call it the Chipman Brothers Tangent.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, cool.
So we
All
should
right.
have an intro then.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so let's try this out here. All right. Hey everybody, welcome to the first named version of what we think we're probably going to end up calling the Chipman Brothers Tangent.
I concur. Last place.
Yes. Yes, we have the Chipman Brothers Tangent is what we're basically calling this, because we go off on tangents.
Indeed.
Yes, we have tangential conversations, and we do like to start in a general place and see where it ends up. This is just two brothers. Two brothers! You gotta watch Rick and Morty so you'll get the Two Brothers reference, Chris.
Indeed. Yeah, I am sorry, Internet. I am not well versed on Rick and Morty as of yet. I have seen one episode of it, and I loved it.
No, wait, which one did you see?
Oh, Jesus, I don't remember, dude. How long's that show been on?
It just started its third season.
So it was probably at a Christmas, New Year's-ish type party 3 years ago.
Okay, all right, yeah. Okay, so you got some to catch up. Yeah, one of these days we're gonna sit down and because it's only about like 25 episodes at this point.
Should we just on this podcast sometime, just record ourselves watching it? I'd be down for that.
Reaction videos are a whole other thing. That's a popular thing, but I think that's a different thing. That's like a reaction video.
Oh, see. So, okay.
No, you and I... Well,
we have decided what we're not branding ourselves as, ladies and gentlemen. We will not be an immediate reaction podcast.
Yeah, well, no, because that's done as a video thing. You know, where you train the camera on yourself, and then people watch it in sync with you watching it. It's a thing, but it's for video. It doesn't really work so much for audio.
Interesting. Well, on my end to start, Bob, we just missed it by about 2 minutes, but since we started recording and we can date this video this way, may the 4th be with you, good sir.
Yes. May the 4th be with you as well.
And also with you.
Yeah, you know, I am someone who loves Star Wars, and it's terrific. I kind of feel like this thing where we want to have a day where we talk all about Star Wars. Now that we're getting one Star Wars movie a year, do we need a day other than the day that movie comes out for this?
No, but it's kind of
it's
kind of stuck into the culture, if you will.
No, I mean it's fun. I mean I get it. May the 4th. Ha 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 ha. I get it. It's cute.
It's adorable.
It's a cute, amusing reference thing, but it's this is sort of the weird place that nerd culture stuff that has found itself in, where this is now the dominant culture of stuff. So I feel like it's almost didn't the president just declare the 1st of May Loyalty Day or something?
Yeah, but we don't pay attention to what he does and says, other than despite it and hate it and be afraid of it.
Well, right, but no, I mean I'm making a reference to the sense I feel I'm thinking, really? I'm pretty sure that America has 7 other holidays
that are about
all
loyalty.
Yeah, that are I think if we've already got Flag Day, Memorial Day, Veterans Day, President's Day,
well, dude, our
the 4th
children
of July.
Pledge allegiance to the goddamn flag every day.
Do they still is that still a thing in public schools?
I imagine they keep trying to take God out of it, which, depending on what side of the coin you're on, is a good or bad thing. But regardless, Um, it's we still pledge allegiance, as in I will die for this fucking thing, in school every morning.
Okay, yeah, I guess. All right. But it just it that but that's kind of my point though, is do you need a whole, like, does Star Wars need a separate holiday of its own beyond when Star Wars is now fucking everywhere?
Well, it's kind of like Pi Day, right?
I guess it's sort of like, okay, here's the thing, like, what day Jaws takes place over a specific holiday weekend, right?
4th of July.
Right, the 4th of July. If Jaws took place on just a random day,
Could we have a Jaws Day?
Yeah, well, I think so, and I think the
Well-
reason that would be more sensible is that we don't live in a culture that is constantly talking about Jaws.
Well, I mean, in my house, I constantly talk about Jaws.
But you know what I mean. It's like if I turn on TV right now and just watch any random channel that isn't like, the Christian Broadcasting Network for about an hour, I will probably see either a Star Wars commercial, one of the Star Wars movies, or some kind of reference being made to Star Wars somewhere on any random day. Like, it's so pervasive.
True.
So I kind of feel like the cuteness factor of saying, hey, this is a day where we talk about this one movie we all kind of remember, is, I don't know, it's the novelty of May the 4th has sort of worn off on me.
Very interesting. Wouldn't it make sense for them to do like Star Wars Con on May the 4th?
Something like that.
Wasn't that a month ago?
Yeah, right. Like, if they tied it into something, like if this was, okay, on May the 4th is when we have the convention, or on May the 4th it's traditional to release one of the Star Wars movies. That makes sense, but it just feels like this sort of thing of people like, hey, because what it is it's the culture reminding itself, like, hey, does everyone get this reference? This crazy, wacky, out there reference? And I'm thinking, yeah, this reference to this movie that literally everyone has seen and that our entire culture has never stopped talking about since the mid-1980s. Well, yeah, I have heard of that.
Well, to go back to our last podcast, I mean, it's nowhere without the social reach of the internet.
Right, yeah.
Right. May the 4th be with you would have been a far more geeky thing, like, right in the pre-YouTube Facebook world, that would have been a clever, like, Taco Bell ad campaign.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Like, we have the tie-in with Star Wars, so May the 4th be with you. We'll have, like, a cup with, like, Anakin Skywalker on it, or something like that.
Yeah.
Right? Or the Taco Bell dog will have a freaking lightsaber in a commercial.
Yes.
We'll have
like
we'll have the burnt to a crisp Vader Gordita or something like that.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm talking about.
I had a Fight the Dark Side ice cream sundae from Cherry Farm earlier today that came with a pretzel stick with green white chocolate glaze on it that was supposed to be a lightsaber.
But you see, that's cool. Like, I'm not disparaging. I'm just saying it feels almost like extra to have like a separate made up Star Wars holiday when there are already like 5 different Star Wars related days like built into our calendar year.
True. That's, and I mean, right, but that's only been true since about The Force Awakens was announced, right? We didn't know we were getting more Star Wars.
Yeah, I guess,
so,
I don't know.
Yeah, we are kind of inundated with Star Wars. I mean, I think back to, remember when we both worked for Blockbuster and the first Entertainment Weekly came out hinting that they were going to attempt to do the Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Right? And that was pre-Sam Raimi's Spider-Man? Or
well,
post?
it took them forever to make that movie, so
right.
This was...
And remember, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man was kind of the kickoff to these can be good again. I mean, you could say the Tim Burton Batman movie, but that resurgence in '89 had come and gone by the time they got to Forever, and then Batman and Robin, and Nolan hadn't made Batman Begins yet, so we had Spider-Man to kind of go off of, and we had talked back then about how, having the geek culture of that reach, where I mean Disney owning Marvel and owning Star Wars and inundating us yearly, twice a year with something. Okay, maybe the day can feel a little silly now, but Star Wars, regardless of how overly commercialized Star Wars has always been, it's kind of still felt like the only one of those things that still feels like it hasn't been tainted out of the you kind of go and talk to people about it in the basement of a comic shop. You know, like the Avengers and Marvel has kind of gotten the glossy, big money, quick. I mean, it went from Iron Man to what it is now in a very short period of years, right?
Yeah.
Star Wars has been around since '77, and it's still, when we had to wait in line to see a Phantom Menace, right?
Yeah.
It still felt like a word of mouth kind of a thing, even though it was so big. You know, whereas everyone just shows up when a Marvel movie comes out, right? The Transformers fans show up.
Yeah.
Right, the Michael Bay folks and the Fast and the Furious, before they got accepted as good moviegoers, show up. You know, whereas Star Wars, you still kind of get poked fun at and laughed at a little bit for liking it.
Yeah.
You know, I feel anyway. And so, I mean, it having its own day, it's kind of like it's Comic-Con. You know?
Yeah, I get
it's
that.
Like,
I get that.
Right? The thing that, you know, we had talked about, you know, you go to like a family dinner and your relatives are asking you about the movie that's good or bad or this or that, you know, because we were the ones that saw them, right? So the May the 4th thing, I could still see that being something like a grandparent might go, hey, what is this? Did you guys celebrate some sort of special day for that thing you like? Whereas, you know, it might be that your uncles and aunts and everybody have seen Captain America. I don't know, but I agree. It does seem a little. I mean, like Lego releases a Star Wars character every year on this day.
Yeah, okay. See, things like that. Like I get it. It's. I don't know. It's a tangent. You know, hence the name of the podcast.
Well, yeah, we didn't even tell them what we were going to talk about yet. We just decided to talk about Star Wars.
Right. Well, so we had a little Star Wars, and this is going to date it tremendously because like it's already no longer May the 4th. But
yeah,
it just became the 5th. But
I had to work that in there, though. You got to give that to me.
No,
when we decided we were recording tonight, it was May the 4th.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, you said you've been catching up.
Edit.
So we said I think last time we said that we wanted to talk about the new Mystery Science Theater, which has also been up on Netflix for about like 3 weeks now.
2 weeks, I think, right?
2 weeks. It's 2 weeks old, which should not be feel old in any kind of temporal sense, but because it's Netflix and we're sort of used to this thing where Netflix drops a show, and if you're interested in it at all, you watch it the whole weekend and just kill it out for yourself, and then spend the next month or so talking about it, and then on to the next thing. The fact that Mystery Science Theater, this show, the episodes are 90 minutes apiece. It does feel like it's suddenly more accepted that people are taking their time to go through all of these.
I agree, and the other thing, you said it already feels old, right? I think is a point that we can exhaustively go through if we need to, but a point that should be made at the beginning that if you haven't seen this yet, and you were already a fan of it, I know there's a few people out there that may disagree with us, but for me, it felt like just like that comfortable sweater that from your childhood that it just fit the exact same, and it brought you back to that same exact place. I've, as far as television is concerned, not really had a nostalgia trip that worked and felt quite as organic as this one. I had mentioned Stranger Things a little bit in a previous one, that show, watching that, felt like someone had uncovered an old Spielberg VHS that had never been released. And this is the exact same thing. It just feels like they kept making more Mystery Science Theater 3000 and didn't stop. Aside from the references to nowadays that are there that work quite well, it just feels like the same show.
Yeah.
right down to the look, feel, production value, jokes. I love it. I'm about halfway through.
Yeah, it does have. I am about to watch the last episode of the season. I'll probably go finish off that tonight. The At the Earth's Core. What's interesting is, I agree. For starters, if we both of us were huge Mystery Science Theater fans from way back in the day. Like pretty much all, like, you and I had both been watching that pretty much since it started, at least on Comedy Central.
Right, and that was probably what, 92?
Around that 90 to 91 for the Comedy Central seasons, yeah.
And that means that I was 8 and you were 11.
Yeah.
Just to give people the idea. And Comedy Central, especially at least in our part of the world, played it at midnight, if not 2 in the morning.
Yeah, they would rerun it then.
And the funky thing about our local station was that Comedy Central and VH1 shared the same station. That was channel 42, right. Time Warner Cable.
Yeah.
And so it was at free random which one you'd get. They had it in like 6-hour blocks. So it would be VH1 in the morning, and then Comedy Central in the afternoon, and VH1 at night, and then it would go back to Comedy Central. So there were times we'd stay up to watch it where the changeover would be after the episode had started, and it would be really friggin' annoying.
Yeah, that would be obnoxious. And I remember that vividly. And I agree with you that, the new Mystery Science Theater, starting it up, it feels deliberately not just a throwback to the show as it's always been, but deliberately back to the very beginning in the Joel era. It has a similar kind of laid-back, going with the flow sensibility to it.
Right down to the feel of the invention exchanges.
Right, the invention exchanges back, that sort of thing. What is interesting is that as you watch, especially, have you been watching them in order?
Yes.
Yeah, I have as well, is that there is a sort of like running storyline, a little bit of one that kind of like starts to come in over the course of it, which is an interesting new thing, but also that you do start to feel it as it goes, develop, okay, this is a different animal now. There is a slightly different feel to it, and you get a different sensibility, and there's there's an almost, and I don't know if this is a, just a function of where Joel Hodgson's sense of humor is right now, but there is, whereas Mystery Science Theater was always a very weird show and really loved the idea of having the stuff happening in the background that we're not commenting on in the live-action host segments, but there's an uneasy kind of like creepy David Lynchian quality to it that starts to come in. I don't know how far in you are, but as we start to get more sides of what is like the interior lives of these characters, you start to get a little bit more. There's like a bit of stuff that in the I won't spoil, obviously, but in the second to last episode of the new season, basically, there's like a random gag that pops up in the background that they make a point of going, you didn't see that, that's not something that happened, that I kind of went, okay, wow, that's actually a little spooky, what the hell is going on here?
Right,
so,
and I know exactly what you're talking about, and that's that's going to be a great thing for people that haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, so it's quite a thing, and I'm curious to see where it all goes. I hope they get another season.
Oh, I think they will.
I really don't. I mean, I know, like, well, the thing of it is Netflix just renews everything, pretty much.
It's true.
So I'm sure that, that they will get another run of this. My hope is that they want to do another run of it.
I mean, I would imagine they'd have to. The original show was built on love, right? You could tell they, especially the first 2-3 years before it was on Comedy Central, they were making it for is it Michigan or Wisconsin? Minnesota audience, like cable access audience, right? So that's is anyone even going to be watching? Type of a thing. And the way we consumed it was even in that felt like it's like they're making this for me. you know, is the way that show felt when we were watching it. It didn't feel like some big overreaching other thing that really even had a plan, right? It's just, you know, we're trying stuff out and we're having a lot of fun. And I mean, from reading and hearing the people working on it talk about it and the production schedule even for this new one, right? I mean, you're a single actor working with a couple of hand puppets. That's, you know, not easy. Just ask the Henson Company, right? That's not easy to do even on a big budget. And when you go shoestring, you know, you just kind of have to go with the flow. An interesting point. One of the things that I really loved about the movie choices on this new one, and it brought me to a cool point that I think this podcast would definitely do well to talk about.
Yes.
Is when we watched that original show, it was rare, unless you get into like a Gamera or a Godzilla or something of that nature, that they'd end up with a movie that an 8 and 11-year-old kid in New England or even in any part of the country at that moment in time probably would have seen, right? Unless your parent happened to have VHS copies of old, you know, B-side drive-in movies, right?
Right, yeah.
This is the kind of stuff they were grabbing. And, you know, that's what made the original show great, right? It's not like they were grabbing like let's poke fun at this terrible new movie and, oh, how silly it was that they spent so much money and the thing was junk, right? These movies weren't really movies that anyone was laboring to make wonderful, right? They were normally shovelware, get them up on a screen, be a rip-off of Godzilla, be a rip-off of some alien invasion movie, you know? And that's what makes it more fun, is it kind of gives those movies a chance to be art, almost, by being turned into this other thing that can riff on them and have a good time. So, this time around, 2 movies on this list, The Land That Time Forgot and Wizards of the Lost Kingdom, which I was not aware there was a sequel to until this.
There technically isn't.
Yeah, right. You and I had unironically seen both of those.
Yeah.
Not as Mystery Science Theater movies before this ever existed. And, you know, I don't know if people much younger than you or I even would know how you'd access something like that nowadays, right? Because Netflix, has a lot of cool, funky old movies, and if you dig down into the doldrums of it, you can find some fun shit. But when you'd walk around, and I'm not talking even Blockbuster, because Blockbuster was pretty saturated with junk by that point too, you know.
Right,
You'd find some obscure stuff, but you go to your local mom and pop or even a Asian like influenced video store, which we had a lot of around here, but even just your local mom and pop, we had a video store called Atlas Video.
Yes.
And we'd go in there on a Friday night. We'd even walk because it was close to our house. And Mom and Dad would let us wander around and pick stuff up. And, you know, you'd end up with that's the first time we saw Monster Squad, for instance.
Yeah.
Was the box art looked awesome. And, you know, we decided to rent it and watch it. And, Fairy Tale Theater, they had a whole wall, Shelley Duvall's Fairy Tale Theater, for Christ's sakes. I consumed all of those at, 6, 7, 8 years old.
Oh, yeah.
And, when Dad would have us at home on a Wednesday night when Mom had to go work bingo for the church so we could still go to school, he'd rent, like Jaws or Cheech and Chong's Up in Smoke and fast forward through all the dirty parts.
Yeah.
Right? And that's where we encountered the land that time forgot and the terrible people that time forgot that came after it. And
oh, God, yeah.
Wizards of the Lost Kingdom, because the cover box art made it look like Labyrinth.
Yes.
Or the Dark Crystal or the Never-Ending Story, right?
Yeah.
And, I mean, that was a formative part of our childhood. We didn't recognize these movies as garbage at the time. Yeah. We recognized these movies as something cool. I mean, we wanted to see anything with a dinosaur in it. So the Land That Time Forgot was this really weird hodgepodge of, a war movie with dinosaurs and some time machine type stuff worked into it and all this other stuff. And I mean, this show tapped right into that, whereas the original show may have been the drive-in movies that our parents would have seen.
Yeah.
You know, this is now the video store, rejects that we would have found. And I don't know if, in the YouTube, Netflix, Facebook culture of consumption, if anyone's really going to have that same thing today. Like, will there be a Mystery Science Theater that can exist 20 years from now?
I think there can. I mean, right. I mean, if it's two different questions, because, like, I would say yes, there probably could and may well be, just because there's already been a Mystery Science Theater, so there's a template. But in terms of, like, something, arising independent of that, I don't know, because you're right. It is the whole concept of discovering and, like, taking a chance on, random entertainment. It's not so much that it doesn't exist anymore, but that it doesn't exist it's not in the same context. Like, wandering around the video store and looking and having to say, okay, this looks good, but do I really want to take it all the way home and whatnot? You had to, like, commit to it. You were, like, making a decision. Whereas now, I can only assume that the art of discovering old weird movies is, if you just click around on YouTube, you're going to find all kinds of bizarre public domain shit, but there's no push for you to actually commit to it and figure out what it's about. It's basically, what the hell, Galaxy of Terror, what is this? Click, scroll through, bounce around through like 30 seconds, and it's like, okay, I guess this looks like something, and then on to the next thing. It's this really rapid sampling thing. And I don't necessarily, I mean, there's what is good about being able to access entertainment in that way outweighs what might be lost of it, but there is a sense of the sense of discovery, really, I don't know, meaningfully exists anymore, because it's all just right the hell there.
Right.
Like, one of the I'm very fond of the run of movies in this new incarnation of Mystery Science Theater. I think it's very interesting. I'd be curious to know if they are trying deliberately to keep to movies that are in, like, a 16:9 TV aspect ratio.
Good point.
Because, like, I could be wrong about this, I don't think I saw any of them in there that were in, like, standard format or whatnot. So, are they deliberately avoiding doing, black and white drive-in movies that would be in standard format? Like, I did a whole episode of one of my shows in Bob We Trust of, movies that they should take a shot at. And, one of them was From Hell It Came, which is a standard definition movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder, would they not do that because Netflix is in standard def? I imagine they probably would, because Netflix puts up shows that are, old shows that are in standard def. So,
but they upgrade them.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, like, it's more the shape of the TV. Like, if the new Mystery Science Theater wanted to do a movie that was in standard def, would they window box it?
Oh, good point.
With the bars on the sides for that, or would they, like, blow it up and pan and scan it? Which, I mean, most of the and pretty much anything made post 1950 that they had on the original show would have been a pan and scan copy anyway, because it was the TV cuts of various things.
Right.
Yeah. So I'd be curious to know that. I will say the lineup for the new run is pretty eclectic, even in a different way. Like, yes, we have two big Doug McClure, explorer action movies. There's the two Wizards of the Lost Kingdom movies, which are unrelated films other than their titles, but they live in the same genre, more or less.
Right. And they're terrible.
But, right. And they have, like, Reptilicus is a classy old monster movie. But one of them in there, they did Al Adamson's Carnival Magic.
Oh, jeez.
Which is a notoriously awful film. And for anyone who had been wondering about, would Mystery Science Theater, still do... Because before, the weirdness of the kind of movies that would end up on MST3K, like the fact that the only reason anyone knows about Manos: The Hands of Fate is that it was on Mystery Science Theater.
Right.
Right. And what was interesting about Manos as an artifact was that movie basically never played anywhere. That was a movie that a guy made to win a bet. He was like a local businessman in Texas, and he made that movie to win a bet that he couldn't make a whole movie on his own. And it like played at a drive-in once and then went into just a vault and was just forgotten. Just who cares, who gives a fuck. And then Mystery Science Theater finds it and turns it into this huge cult item.
Huge.
Huge.
And I mean, the jokes in reference to that continue on through this season.
Oh, yeah. And Carnival Magic, for people who don't know this, Carnival Magic was an Al Adamson movie. He was like a B-movie king for, a period of the 60s and 70s. And just made a lot of really bad shit. And this movie is basically, they had a weekend and a carnival to just make up a movie, which they did, about a magician and an ape and a whole bunch of stupid shit. Chimpanzee, I'm sorry. And it's one of these movies, it's just a whole bunch happens and yet nothing happens and there isn't really a plot. And it's famously obtuse, sort of, what the hell is this piece of crap, that was literally shown once, put in a warehouse, and was thought to be a lost film for about 30 years until they found a print last year. And, Netflix has it, so Mystery Science Theater can use it, and it feels very much in that same vein of Manos as, what is this thing that I'm looking at? Because otherwise, some of the stuff this season is, really, it's a little more approachable. It's a little more familiar. Like, The Land That Time Forgot is not a good film under conventional metric, but you can put that on TV and just watch it as a film.
Right, and that's how we saw it, right? It was rented and on TV.
Yeah, like, it's not terrible. It's got, dinosaurs, there's a plot that moves, there's action, there's, like, recognizable actors. One of the movies is Avalanche, and is just a low-budget disaster movie that has Rock Hudson in it.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, like, big stars of this type of movie, and it's a great episode, by the way. But it's a different sort of thing. And I would like to continue seeing them expand on that. What's your favorite episode of the new season that you've watched so far?
Oh, jeez. Because they hold a special place in my heart, the Land That Time Forgot was a damn good one. But I think for just sheer absurdity, it's a toss-up with Cry Wilderness and the Time Travelers. Was that what it was called? Yeah, the Time Travelers. And it's for the exact same reason you just mentioned about Manos. Cry Wilderness looks like something that, the studio just says we happen to have a Bigfoot costume and we can film in this Canadian wildlife park, make a movie. Yeah. There was trained animals in this freaking thing, right?
Yeah.
Not done in green screen.
No.
Right? Such a weird movie. What was the kid's name?
Peter! Your father needs you!
It's the weirdest freaking thing. And the whole opening involving this kid and the, potentially magical Bigfoot that's able to show up, and it might be a fever dream and it might not be.
Yeah.
And then the time travelers, like you said, it's just a whole bunch of stage tricks that they decided we should film a movie where all the special effects are practical, but they're like practical stage tricks. So you don't have an audience that, is stuck in one perspective, so you don't have to do that with a camera.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that's made in a really weird way. The Time Travelers is another sort of famously weird 60s movie where someone who I guess either the producers or one of the directors was a stage magician and had, just a thought of, hey, we could use magic tricks, like stage magic illusions, we'll use them and call them a bunch of science fiction stuff and make a cheap sci-fi movie around them, and that'll be like a way to make it look like we've got really cool special effects when really we're just doing basic magic tricks.
It was bonkers.
Yeah, it's a weird thing.
And they had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they found their way around it, and that's definitely the sort of thing that like a UHF channel would just have in their library that would go on like a rained out baseball game day. Yeah, and that would go on. So I've had a ton of fun with the new season, as it does make me think about the old video store days and getting things weird, wild stuff.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Back to the point about where will it be in 20 years, right? I mean, this resurgence is now seeing things that we've been able to find and see in our lifetime, right?
Yeah.
But remember when Beavis and Butthead came back?
Yes.
And the shtick with Beavis and Butthead coming back was that MTV doesn't play music anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Beavis and Butthead used to watch videos from the show in a similar, but not exactly the same thing, but similar self-aware vein as Mystery Science Theater. And now, instead,
right, yeah,
they'd put on Beavis and Butthead before the Jersey Shore and have them watch clips from the upcoming shows like America's Funniest Home Videos and riff self-awarely at the channel that they were on.
Yeah.
Needless to say, it didn't last, but it was funny, right?
Yeah.
But Mystery Science Theater is self-aware in and of itself, so I wouldn't expect it to become then self-aware in an Inception style of itself, right?
Yeah.
If Mystery Science Theater becomes obsolete, there's no point for it anymore, right?
And
right. Riff tracks and Cinematic Titanic already exist too, so it can't just be that Mystery Science Theater 10 years from now is now just doing Hollywood first-run movies, right? It wouldn't work.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is what I wonder about is like the generationally specific Mystery Science Theater, the whole vibe of it with the cardboard spaceships and the puppets and whatnot kind of fits with the aesthetic of the kind of movies that would be running on, the idea originally always was that these were UHF channel in rotation bad movies that you would be quote unquote forced to watch because there was nothing else on.
Right, exactly.
And that whole world, like that whole concept, the whole concept of there's nothing on doesn't really exist anymore.
Right.
And this idea of, I don't have a million different entertainment devices, I have a TV, and if something bad is on, I will watch it and talk back to it just for something to do.
Right.
That, not only does that in and of itself not exist, but like now, the Mystery Science Theater aesthetic with the fake spaceships and the puppets and whatnot ran parallel with the cheap movies that would also have fake spaceships and puppets and monsters and such. Now it's an even more bizarre match where you've got them doing, it's the fact that Mystery Science Theater's effects are actually not as good as the effects of the movie that they're riffing is something that didn't often happen. Right. And is like the default setting for a lot of these things. Like, At the Earth's Core and whatnot is not an expensive movie, but was a big-scale Hammer B movie of its era. Right. And, now I wonder, like right now, The People That Time Forgot is an early 70s movie.
Yes.
Which makes it 70, 80, 90, 2000, makes it about a 40-year-old movie, right?
Right.
Okay, so, if there's a Mystery Science Theater 20 years from now, looking like an oldie to them would be like, Starship
Johnny
Troopers.
Mnemonic?
Yeah, right, Johnny Mnemonic, things like that. Like, that would be a Mystery Science Theater movie.
Machine, the Lawnmower Man.
Right. Like, at some point, stuff that is...
anything from Full Moon.
Right, yeah, well, some stuff from Full Moon could probably go in now, because a lot of that's so old school, though Full Moon kind of, owns all their own streaming rights.
Well, wouldn't it be great for an entire season of Mystery Science Theater to be like canon?
Yeah.
Right? Just start doing like eras, right? Like the TriStar era.
Yeah. I would love to see them do one of the Godfrey Ho ninja movies.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Because and you know which ones I mean. The ones that they usually had like Richard Harrison in them.
Yep.
And they were clearly made by like cutting up 7 or 8 different movies from throughout Asia together to form a ninja movie.
Like Kung Pao, but trying to be serious.
Right. Yeah. And there are millions of these, like, Ninja Terminator, Ninja against Shaolin.
Yep.
Yeah. I would do one of those. Even the quote-unquote serious ones, like Enter the Ninja.
Right, and these were things that we rented as well.
Yeah, they were. Well, but also, B movies after a certain point, like from the 80s on, kind of, even the ones that took themselves seriously became aware, and those are a lot harder to mock because they're being made very cynically.
Right, like
they know, and look, I love a lot of stuff like this, but like the movie Leprechaun, for example.
It would be a terrible fit for Mystery Science Theater.
You can't riff it because
it already knew.
Yeah, because it's riffing on itself, It's like trying to make fun of one of the Freddy Krueger movies. Freddy is in there, talking shit about his own premise already.
Exactly.
And that's that kind of thing is the default setting for B movies now. Whereas the stuff that Mystery Science Theater is doing, like Manos is a bad movie. What makes it transcendent is that it's trying so hard to be good.
Yes, and it just misses at every step.
Right. And I mean, Mystery Science Theater, they have said that they have, not done certain movies, and a lot of the ones they say they don't generally do comedies,
right?
And they don't generally do stuff that's genuine exploitation films because, those are movies that aren't trying to be good. Like, if you took one of those, like, movies that, like a girls in prison movie, like, Caged Heat or whatnot, or something that only exists to fill in space between sex scenes.
Yes.
Would not work on Mystery Science Theater because no one's trying. How can you make fun of the movie when the movie is sitting there going, yeah, no shit, we're not trying. We're just here to see Leanna Quigley's boobs.
Right.
So it's a different kind of vibe. So I do think, that eventually it's probably, an obsolete thing, at least in terms of affecting genuine nostalgia. I think if it becomes it becomes and stays a brand of its own, like Mystery Science Theater is a show where puppets make fun of bad things made between 1955 and, like the early 80s, then that's a different thing. But I don't see, future versions of Tom and Crow, being called into action to goof on, like, I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Right. What about something in the vein of Geely?
That actually works. I think something like that would.
Is that the example of the Manos, or this was genuinely trying to be something and just misstep big time?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think you don't really see genre movies that genuinely misstep now because, like, weird, goofy B genre movies are generally now in on their own joke.
Right, but, like, for instance, even though it's critically panned and probably not worth it, could you see, like, North?
It's a comedy, so no.
So they wouldn't do it. Yeah, okay.
Well, I can't imagine they would, because the thing is also, like, North is trying to be weird.
True,
so
true.
The surprising thing about North is how dull it is.
Right.
It's sort of like, I don't know, the culture and presentation of stuff changed dramatically, heading into, like, the 90s. And, also a lot of modern bad movies are just too dark and unpleasant, usually.
Well, right,
to make good Mystery Science Theater things.
For instance, a terrible fit, even though it feels like it would be perfect for them, but because Scientology in and of itself is just such a big joke, would be
Yeah.
Battlefield Earth, right? Because
Mhm.
man, did that movie think it was something,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and also like all of the Battlefield Earth jokes have already been told now.
Right, and they've already done Starship Troopers, and that
Yeah,
movie shouldn't be. That movie was good anyway, and shut up
Yeah.
anyone that doesn't think it is. But
Yeah.
that at least had some fun things to riff on, and it was part of the Thanksgiving trailer special back in the day. So that's a lot of fun. But I'm trying to think what could possibly be the most recent movie that would fit the mold for unironically bad, right? Like the Hunger Games, not Hunger Games. Sorry, the 50 Shades of Grey doesn't fit.
Yep.
Twilight doesn't really. Maybe the first one, but they did that with riff tracks, right? But
Yeah.
the Birdemics and things like that don't fit the bill.
Birdemic almost does. Like Birdemic is probably the most recent thing that I would say.
But they've done it.
Makes sense. Well, I mean, like Riff Tracks did it.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying something that maybe didn't get tapped in by that.
Okay.
Something that genuinely seemed like it was going to be good ended up bad, or because a lot of these were in theaters. I mean, granted, it was drive-in theaters back in the day, right? But
yeah,
I don't know. I guess Geely it fits the bill, I think, and that has been
a little
done
bit
by them.
And even Geely is like 15 years old, right?
It's true, yeah.
Yeah, it's the thing of it is that the world is so interconnected now, and everyone knows everything about everyone else.
Right.
That it's really hard to find anything that is a genuine what the hell is this item. I mean, I can go on YouTube right now and watch the trailer, not the the complete movie, the advertising that this is a thing that's happening trailer for a movie, an unlicensed version of Mortal Kombat that is being shot as a movie in Nigeria.
Doesn't that look the balls?
It does.
I would watch that all day long.
And that is out there, and those movies there's the Nigerian movies, is a whole sub industry that has its own culture and its own posters and stuff. A lot of those, at first glance you look at them and go, yeah, this is something that we could riff, but you look at it and you realize that would almost be like Mystery Science Theater riffing on another episode of Mystery Science Theater,
right? Exactly.
Because it's coming from that same kind of handmade, we love this stuff, kind of thing, and you also don't want to shit on something like that. There's actually a couple of older episodes of MST3K that are out there that have had interviews with the crew and the writers and such, where a few times they've talked about, if we had to do this one over again, we wouldn't do this movie because we don't know the circumstances behind it.
Right.
One of them is, remember the Rondo Hatton movies?
Yes.
The Creeper, where the guy had Rondo Hatton was an actor who had I think he had a form of acromegaly, the Andre the Giant disease.
Uh-huh.
And he was the guy. If you saw The Rocketeer, there's a henchman in that movie that has big ears and a big, kind of weird, swollen face. He's supposed to look like Rondo Hatton, who was an actor who had a facial deformity that very briefly became a star as a monster called the Creeper in a series of low-budget horror movies because he looked very alarming. He was a big man who looked alarming. And MS3K early on, in the second or third season, did, I think, one or two of the Creeper movies, which are just low-budget movies about a big guy in a coat that sneaks up on people and strangles them. And Mary Jo Pehl has an interview on the DVD that had this as part of his collection, and she said, we had a lot of fun, but later on when we read up on the internet about who Rondo Hatton was and what had transpired with this guy. You know, if I had to do it again, I wouldn't want to riff this because, you know, we're basically, you know, making fun of something that is exploiting the fact that this guy was actually pretty much dying.
Right.
Of, you know, the things that were making him look like that were also eventually killing him.
That's the fine line, right? Because there's that's where the critics of the show always say that they feel like they're making fun of like a, you know, like a kid that has a disability or something, you know, that created art.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, well, and that's where the fine line is, right? You know, is were these people trying to make art, or were they just shelling out some shovelware that's fun to elevate a little bit? You know, maybe there's a little both of that, right? I mean, you get into something like The Room, and what the hell's going on in that guy's head?
Yeah, yeah, that's a product of someone being pretty unwell, in my opinion.
Exactly. And so when does it, you know, when is it no longer that we're laughing together? You
exactly
know, is the fine line you have to ride for sure.
Well, for now, I'm having fun with the new season. I look forward to finishing it off. People tell me it ends on a cliffhanger, which is wild. I got to check that out.
That's super interesting.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to check that out, and hopefully, did you find that it took a little while for you to be able to differentiate between the three guys?
Yes, I actually put on the Netflix subtitles, so I know.
Okay,
because there is a very good consistency to the types of jokes each of them tell.
Right.
Like Jonah kind of has, you know, certain things he says the way Joel would, and the robots kind of keep their character. I do like the little zingers from why is my brain shutting off right now?
Gypsy?
Gypsy. Yeah.
New Gypsy rules.
New Gypsy rules.
I like everything. I was aware when they said that they're going to give Gypsy a naturalistic female voice as opposed to the Jim Milan do it, because like Gypsy is just so bizarre in the old show. Like everyone in the old show is weird, and then as weird as everyone else is, then you'd get Gypsy with the "Oh my God, they're going to kill Joel!"
Yes, exactly.
You know, but like now the fact that Gypsy just kind of sounds like a telemarketer from the Midwest, it's just kind of great. It's great, and you just lowers down into the theater, snipes at the movie, and then pops back out again.
I do miss the original two iterations. Was it just two of Crow and Tom Servo, the voices?
In the first season, the first KTMA season and the first Comedy Central season, Josh Weinstein did Tom Servo, and he actually sounds, his version of Tom sounded and acted pretty similar to the current one.
Yes, okay.
But Kevin Murphy.
Familiar. Okay.
Yeah, but Kevin Murphy was Tom Servo for the longest, and his Tom was always the "I'm a little bit up here and I'm kind of a high cultured guy" kind of thing.
Yeah, his Tom Servo is definitely the best. I like the new one, and the gags are great in the new one. But I feel his Tom Servo is missed a little bit. Yeah,
it is when there are a handful of times, I won't spoil the when, in the new show where old characters from mostly from the Sci-Fi Channel seasons pop back up for cameos, and it's you can just like, oh yeah, I like the new stuff, but I missed you guys.
Yeah, it's good. Always, they're all semi part of the writing staff too and everything, right? So that they're not pop in and out.
They are Shout Factory and Joel Hodgson are making sure that after a lot of them got screwed out of like royalties and stuff for a pretty long time. And supposedly Joel Hodgson and Shout Factory are making sure that there is more going to the previous cast from before. But no, it's Mary Jo Pehl, Bill Corbett, and Kevin Murphy have cameos throughout the new season.
That's great.
Mike Nelson declined to appear thus far, and Trace Below and Frank Conniff are on tour, actually.
As the Mads.
Yes, as the Mads.
Which I think is great.
We'll see. I'd like to see if more people would show up, but it's good. It's a good thing. I'm just so glad to have it back.
It's like having an old friend back, and it's cool that after all those years, it didn't really feel like it went anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I knew I missed it, but it's like, oh wow, it's as if you just flipped the switch and it was back.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna be so morose when I finish up the last one tonight because then it'll be gone again. You know.
Right. Right. Well,
You
I
know.
mean, the old ones are on Netflix now too. I've been catching up on those.
No, I know they are, and that's and it's good. It's just now that it's back, I'm like, you know, it's like it's been like this run of like 14 new episodes. Jesus, yes, this is wonderful. I love it, and please don't ever go away again. I really need this right now.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, I'm very fond of it. I mean, if it wasn't, we wouldn't have done like an hour on it, which we pretty much just did.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
and we probably didn't even scratch the surface of what it means to other people that are listening to this. It's, you know, just what it means to me. You know,
Yeah.
it would be awesome to buy this on VHS.
Yes.
I know that
Yeah.
sounds really weird, but I don't think I could watch it in another format. I mean, having it on Netflix is cool, but I think if I owned it, it would feel weird being on a DVD.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm one of the Kickstarter backers, so I think if they do a DVD set, I think I get it.
That's awesome.
But we'll find out because they've got to. I know Netflix is weird about wanting to do physical media for stuff, but they really should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be awesome. And
Yeah.
Kickstarter, I mean, it's great that it's there for this, right? Because, you know, like you said, for every Star Wars day, right, there's still shows like this that not everybody knows what this is, you know?
Yeah, I hope this is being discovered by new people. I hope that this is
too.
not just a, you know, I hope, like, I love it as a nostalgia property, but I hope that, you know, there are, like, especially a younger audience. I hope that there are, like, young people clicking through their Netflix on their way to whatever it is that, like, a 10-year-old watches on Netflix and sees this and goes, oh, hey, puppets, and then, like, you know, gets hooked on this the way I did.
Well, and that was always the point, right? I mean, you even watch the interviews with Joel. He always wanted this to be a family-friendly show.
Right, yeah.
And so the humor is funny and you know, immature, but it's never R-rated, you know?
Yeah.
Barely even PG-13 rated, right? It's very much fitting the mold of your, you know, 1950s B sci-fi consuming crowd, right?
Yes.
And so it would be, you know, the father in the 70s showing his kid, you know, It Came From Beneath the Sea, or Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, you know, or whatever else, you know, bonkers you want to find from that. And it's great that in the Netflix world that can still exist.
Yeah, I agree.
And that people are still watching it and enjoy it. And I mean, it's the most successful Kickstarter back thing ever.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right? I mean, they got their whole 14 episode season. Right? That's kind of amazing.
Yeah, they got everything they wanted from it.
That's great.
Yeah, and I hope that they take that as reason to do more. You know, like I hope that Netflix looks at this and says, okay, we really didn't have to cover the cost of any of this because it all got kickstarted. I hope that they look at it and had enough success with it that they can say, okay, for the next one, we're going to pay for it.
Right.
You know,
and you know, considering everything that happened in the guy's personal life, it's awesome to see Patton Oswalt smile.
Yeah,
He looks like he's having a goddamn blast. And I don't. Did his wife pass while they were making this, or just before? Because if anything, this must have been an odd sort of strange work therapy, like right for that.
It was very much in the same time frame. Yeah,
because he just looks like he's enjoying the shit out of himself.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's son of TV's Frank.
Yeah, nobody calls him that.
Yeah, no, was it Max?
Yeah, Max. He's good. Felicia Day is really good.
She's fantastic. Yeah, and as soon as the opening song kicks in and her bit starts up, it's like, yeah, no, she's perfect. The casting is perfect.
This is a new thing, but she works. She fits.
Well, and she still does Buelow's and Mary Jo Peel's shtick. Like, she feels like she's related to them because she's supposed to be. And so it's great. It's just she has a kind of different means for
Yeah.
what she's trying to do. I like
Right.
that the moon base, has character and they explain things. I love that the band is there and they're the
Yeah.
skeleton crew.
The business with the liquid movies
Is
is
odd and funny.
is well, it's bizarre because like it's so intricately woven in. Like the guys have like the skeleton crew has the liquid tanks on their backs, and Arby, the guy that like sends them the movie, is for some of them when they have to explain what's been cut from time, he's like, there was a leak and some of the movie spilled out. Hold on.
I love it.
Yeah, it's cool, but it's like I wonder where along they got it because they as you can see the show go through, they use the bubble stuff.
Yep.
To like fit together what would otherwise be an awkward edit.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, where did that come in? Did they come up with that first? Was that a happy accident? We don't know, but it's very, there's a lot of like, buried, if you look for it, thought put into the background of this. That is something that was very much part of the Joel era that kind of went missing afterwards. And I like having it back. All of the fact that the world building around it makes a really bizarre, vaguely threatening sense.
And it's Joel's exact odd, not explained. Like he came up with this joke, and he's not going to make sure you're coming along for the ride with it. He's just going to hope it sticks. You know what I mean? And I always loved that about his brand of humor because the man, he was a stand-up comic, comedian, magician.
Yeah.
Right. Who also made this weird television show, and he's all over this. You can tell this is his baby. He's all over this.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, no. I mean, let's call it what it is. This is, I feel like the main reason that this has, come back in and happen is largely, premised on Joel Hodgson looking, peering into the future and realizing, okay, I can either be in my 90s supporting myself, signing autographs for this, or I can make a new one and retire on it.
Right, exactly.
And good on him.
Very much so, yeah. I love it, and that's basically what I have to say about it. It's just great. So we're talking about Mystery Science Theater in a movie that kind of seems to be cut from a similarly odd, this will be a bit of a tangent vein, but Nacho Vigalondo, I'm thinking I'm pronouncing his last name right.
I believe so.
I'm a huge fan of from Time Crimes, work that you might not agree with me as much on, but his work in the ABCs of Death and VHS films, which he has the only good segment of the third VHS film. VHS Viral, his segment was completely bonkers. Parallel lives, parallel universe. I forget the name of it exactly, but it was awesome. And this gentleman gets $20 million and a couple of decently big named actors in Anne Hathaway and Jason Sudeikis from Saturday Night Live, and decides, you know what I'm going to make? I'm going to make an odd comedy drama about empowerment and also giant monsters.
Yeah. Colossal is the movie Chris is talking about.
Yeah, and this just seems like something that could have gone terribly wrong and ended up on Mystery Science Theater if it was made in the 70s.
Yeah, this is explain the premise of the movie to people.
So the premise of the movie is Anne Hathaway, remember Academy Award winning actress?
Yes.
Anne Hathaway is a drunk New York internet blogger / party goer who is kicked out by her seemingly overbearing but also very distant boyfriend, and goes back to move to her hometown, rents her parents, which are renting their house out, lives in her parents' rented house, and meets back up with an old friend from elementary school that runs a bar and continues to drink. And this friend, in the trailers, they give you, okay, there's something not necessarily happy going on between these people, but I won't delve too much into it. But needless to say, on Drunken Benders, Anne Hathaway comes to realize that she is somehow linked to a giant monster that appears in Seoul, South Korea, and it destroying the city is her drunken benders.
Yes.
Brilliant premise, in my opinion, and
Yeah.
they go farther and deeper with that premise than I thought was possible, and it's weird and it's amazing and it's heartbreaking. If Jason Sudeikis was to walk into this room right now, I would punch him in the face for how good he was in this movie. I want to physically hurt him.
Yeah, he is a scary motherfucker in this.
And this is what's crazy, right? You know, you get too many movies, too many really big budget movies that have a problem with genre mixing, right? You can't have a comedy that's scary. You can't have a drama that's funny. You can't have an action movie that has a heart and a soul and has time to do character building. You know, the audiences don't want that. This movie is hilarious. It's fun to watch. It has kind of like an Edgar Wright level of brilliant character writing and dialogue and geekiness between the people. But it's also filled me as an audience member with anxiety for the characters.
Yeah.
I got cold sweats. I shook. I was terrified. And it got to the point with Jason Sudeikis' character where he could just be standing in a room. And it was like when Heath Ledger's Joker was around, and you just didn't know what he was going to do next.
Yeah, this is a...
How does a Saturday Night Live alum of the current era, or the Will Ferrell, ending era that we kind of look down on, for poor writing, overdrawn sketches, and all of this, how does that guy deliver what I feel could be an award-worthy performance? Right? He's freaking incredible in this movie. And not for the actions that occur, because like I said, I want to hurt him.
Yeah, it's, again, we don't want to spoil too much of the premise of the movie, but it's... The thing of it is the premise of it, you can imagine a version of this that's like Bruce Almighty.
Exactly.
That's a, which is not like a bad film, but that just kind of takes this as, hey, someone turns, is remotely controlling a Godzilla, when they're drunk, isn't that amusing? And instead, this movie sort of zeroes in on the self-destructive aspect of this, and what these characters are to one another, and goes in, okay, like, this is the most unreal premise possible, but it decides to be super, super real, like of the, we're going to make the subtext text and just say, you know what, this is this is what this really is. Like, we're not going to sugarcoat or joke around about, what we're depicting here is that this... I mean, there's no other way to say it. This is a movie about an abusive relationship.
Right. And in more ways than one, but yes.
Yeah. This is a movie about not just self-destructive behavior, but mutually self-destructive people, being taken advantage of by, controlling, stalkerish type people.
And it doesn't shy away from the themes of, we don't have to tell you why this person is this way. Right?
Yeah.
The movie can just show you. Right? It also, it even delves into the themes of, people say, oh, it's just a kid being a kid.
Yeah, right.
A lot of times. But what does that happen? What happens if that's untreated?
Yeah.
Right? If there's nobody there to stop this person or to redirect them or to give them something to live for. I mean, remember, her character is from a town where people don't go anywhere, right? This is a theme that's tried and true in movies forever. I mean, it's tried and true now in our country, right? Let's bring back coal to areas. It's like, no, get the fuck out of there and get a job somewhere else where you can sustain yourself.
Yeah, right.
And what happens to, these people were obviously friends when they were a kid. You get into, before it even gets dark, you get into, okay, he knows a little bit too much about somebody that he hasn't seen since elementary school. You know what I mean? And it gets to, okay, has this person just does he have so little, right, that he just spends his entire days like as like a sleeper waiting for somebody from his childhood to show back up just so he can one-up them, right? And it seems playful at first. Like you said, this is like something that would happen, that would be a B-plot in every other movie of, oh, I'm jealous. You know what I mean? Or something like that. And this movie takes it to a really, really, really deep place that harkens all the way back to, you know, without blowing it, the main real cause and impetus for why any of this is going on. Well, it doesn't necessarily matter, and it's not going to go and over-explain it the way a bad movie might try to. It all comes down to, you know, the person's just a dick. You know what I mean? And you have a dick move as a child that really has this resonating ripple effect throughout their entire life. And the entire life of other people. And it's just incredible. And in particular, you know, there's some great work by other people, right? Like Tim Blake Nelson is fantastic in this.
Yeah.
Right, you know, as the friend in the bar that, you know, you start airing their dirty laundry later. He has an incredible moment where he's called out. You know what I mean, for something. It's like, it's just, the characters all felt real, and this is in a movie where, you know, they can also be controlling giant monsters attacking cities in South Korea. Right, and I just, you know, we talked about movies where someone just thought they were making something great and it went wrong. This is a master at work. This is someone that knows the exact theme they're going for, and it didn't have to be a giant monster, right? But it's awesome that it is.
Yes,
right?
I agree.
I mean, the fact that they can depict destruction happening, but it's not the destruction that's happening that's important in the scene. It's the impact that the actions being caused and who is causing them. So the movie then instead decides to film the person who's inflicting the damage by controlling said giant monster, but using the sound effects of the destruction happening at the other end to impact. And it's just brilliant choices of a, you know, we talk about, you know, the Marvels, the Lucasfilms, they're hiring up these indie directors to basically get more money than they've ever had to make a movie, which means you'll do whatever we say, right? And then you get this guy who gets a decent amount of money to make a weird movie with no real genre that it fits into, and he delivers gold.
Right.
You know, and it's, you don't see it. I mean, nowadays you don't see it all that often anymore. I mean, we've talked about, you've got the Blumhouses and companies like that are really tapping into, you know, well, what if we limit your budget? What can you do then? I mean, they saved Shyamalan. We talked about this before, right? They brought that guy back, and I think it's great that the big studios aren't just scooping up all of these guys. You know, for every who's the guy that made Jurassic World?
Colin Trevorrow?
Yeah, who's a good director in his own right, but you know, he's going to be doing Star Wars Episode 9, right? So he makes a little low budget indie in between. You've got the guy that made the remake of Pete's Dragon, on the other hand, that, you know, that movie felt kind of like this one in a similar way. It was a little bit more watered down and, you know, made for a family audience, but that movie kind of hit me the same way in some aspects with the feels that this Colossal did. Is it's like, man, they're really going for it with this, huh? And I loved it, and I know you've done a review, but if anyone listening to this podcast gets out and sees this movie, Colossal is one of the best I've seen in 5 years.
Yeah, you got to get out there and see Colossal. Colossal and Get Out are like the big genre movies to go see right now. And
Get Out I haven't seen yet, so.
Oh, you got to see Get Out, man.
I have a baby, or a 19-month-old, so we got to pick and choose. But that's the next one on the list.
Excellent. All right, so now
we've talked for a long time.
Right. Have recommendations for Colossal and for Mystery Science Theater. Good stuff.
Yes.
All right, Chris. Do we want to call it an evening?
Of course.
All right, okay. All right. Thank you, folks, for listening. We hope you enjoyed the Chipman Brothers Tangent, or whatever we end up calling this. Please, link to it, share it, tell your friends, and we will see you guys next time.
Have a good one. Thank you for coming along on the tangent.